I wish I could show you this trap that I made, but I can't. I call it Ratatouille, but it seems to be attracting skunks. So Skunkatooie. Now I made a similar trap like this before, and I called it the Guillotine because of the way it sounded and kind of the action of the door coming down. Did not get some rave reviews because people thought their mouse was going to get their head chopped off. I thought, are you guys crazy? Anyway, I did call it a live mouse trap, so people should have been aware of that. This is the second version of that trap, and I tried to make it a little more simplified. You can use any container, but I'm going to be using a large container with a large plastic lid. This is so that it gives me the most space to create the door. An aluminum can to create the guides for the door, and a scrap piece of metal for the door. Again, I always like to use things that I have laying around the house, so you can adapt what you have to your own trap. I'm going to be using the 4x2mm neodymium magnets. And again, you don't need these. You can use any kind of magnet from a fridge or from a speaker or whatever you want to use. In this case, I also have one from a hard drive that you could use as well, which is really powerful. Tools are pretty simple. I use a pair of scissors, a utility knife, and hot glue. The hot glue is my preferred method. You can use something else like Gorilla Glue or an epoxy. I just like the quickness of the hot glue. Another thing that I forgot to include was a pair of tin snips for some of the stronger metals I use. First thing I did was just put the lid on nice and tight so I can have some reference marks so that I know when I'm working on the lid itself, I know that when I close it, it's going to be in the correct orientation. I went ahead, did all the measurements for the door, and got everything ready, and then I realized that copper is not magnetic. But duh, steel is. So I just used this scrap piece of metal from an old Xbox. Now, just to get the Coke can ready, just have to do a quick cut with the utility knife and then trim it all out with the scissors. Once you cut out the aluminum, I just make some strips just about the can length high, so a few inches, and about 1.5 centimeters wide. I use this just this little rod here, is a very thin rod. I believe it's a coat hanger wire, and I just fold the aluminum over top of that just to get a nice uniform fold. And this is to make the U channel or C channel for the door to slide in. Cut a hole that's just a little bit smaller than the door. Then hot glue the door guides in. And you'll see there I just used a piece of the plastic from the lid to make a little 90-degree ledge there where I attach and hot glue the magnet. Also, the door is notched out so that the magnet has something positive to catch on. Now, because there is a gap here between the door and the lid, the mice will easily chew through that plastic, and so we have to reinforce it just with some scrap metal around the edges. It should be enough just to hot glue them in place, and the mice will not be able to chew through that. And finally, the door is completed. Now, the trigger system for the door is pretty simple, and I've done something similar like this before. You take a little stick. I just take a bit of the pop can in a nice long strip so that it's easy to clean, and that's the primary purpose of this, and it's relatively stiff. I take a pop can tab at the end, and the black sunflower seed fits perfectly in to that little section, and you can really keep it quite tight in that part of the pop tab. You simply just open the door, wedge the stick underneath it. It's held by gravity and the pressure of the door, and when the mouse pulls on the black sunflower seed, it will pull the stick in and the door will shut. Well, it's showtime. Time to get the seed in to the pop tab, fill the trap with just a few seeds, not too many, and set the door, set the trap, and wait. Well, I'm telling you, it did not take long. The first night I put it out, I had this mouse come in. Again, I find that the traps where there's an easy opening and they can easily get in and out, they're not as cautious. He takes some seeds out, puts them back into his house to store, and then comes back for a second round of collection. That's why you don't put too many seeds in at first, because they'll just, at least for this kind of trap, because they'll just be in and out until finally they'll go for the pop tab. And the trap held up perfectly. The mouse stayed there all night until I was ready to get him in the morning. And of course, because this is a live trap, we let it out in the field. Well, thanks for watching, and I really enjoy making these ones. Sometimes they just take a little bit longer because of our unexpected guests called the skunks and raccoons outside.
There was a man, he lived in a house with his wife and his 2 girls. He liked TV